Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I hope all of you are fine. Let's start with our today's new chapter of blood pharmacology, and in which our topic for today is coagulants and anticoagulants. So the learning objective of today's lecture would be, by the end of this lecture, students should be able to, number one, recall about coagulation cascade. They should be able to classify coagulants and anticoagulants. They should be able to differentiate between heparin and low molecular weight heparin, as well as heparin and warfarin, and they should know the clinical uses of anticoagulants. Students, this lecture would be covered in two parts. In today's part, we'll be covering about heparin. So this is a coagulation cascade. Basically, there are two pathways involved with clotting. We all know this is an intrinsic pathway and extrinsic pathway. Intrinsic pathway is basically activated directly to the damage to the blood vessel wall, right? So let's have a quick look how it acts. It is activated by factor 12, which when converts into 12A, which is activated form, right? And then this factor 12A activates a series of reaction in which factor 11 is converted into activated form. 11 then converts 9 into activated 9A, and then activated 9A converts factor 10 into activated state of factor 10. Then what is happening, that 10A converts the conversion of prothrombin into thrombin, and finally this thrombin then converts fibrinogen into fibrin, and the fibrin which forms mesh, which basically strengthens the platelet plug. And in the next slide you will appreciate how the extrinsic pathway activates. So now let's have a look over the extrinsic pathway, which is activated due to the trauma to the vessel wall and to the surrounding tissue as well. So extrinsic pathway is basically triggered by the tissue factor, which is released from the damaged cells outside the circulating blood. So let's have a look how the extrinsic pathway is activated. As you can clearly see over here, this is factor 7, which gets activated into factor 7A, which then converts factor 10 into factor 10A, and this is the point where there is overlapping or the of the extrinsic and extrinsic pathway, and this is called the common pathway, which is the conversions of both the pathways. And students, this is a very simplified version of coagulation cascade, because we'll be teaching coagulation and anticoagulant drugs, and for that it was necessary that you should be familiar with these terminologies, how that platelet are aggregated and what factors are necessary. So that is why we'll be able to understand the anticoagulants as well. So with that, we move on to our topic of today's discussion. So anticoagulants can be classified as used in vitro and used in vivo. Vitro means outside the body, and it can be heparin and calcium complexic agents like sodium citrate, oxalate and acetate. In vivo, which is inside the body, we have heparin and low molecular weight heparin. Other drugs are heparinoids, which are like heparin, heparin sulfate and donnaparoid. Oral anticoagulants, which are taken through oral route, are coumarin derivatives, and the most important drug in coumarin derivatives is warfarin. And you must have heard about heparin and warfarin from your previous knowledge of physiology. So let's move on to our next slide. So we can also classify anticoagulants as parenteral and oral. So in parenteral we have heparin. Heparin are further divided into two main types, which are ultra-fractionated heparin, which is also called standard heparin, and the other one is low molecular weight heparin. I would be using these terminologies again and again so as to emphasize you the importance of these two. The university question has been asked again and again as, what is the difference between the low molecular weight heparin and the standard heparin? And you can be asked in this way, that what are the advantages of low molecular weight heparin over the standard one or ultra fractionated. So just standard, that is also called ultra fractionated, or it is also the large molecular weight heparin. Okay? So heparin is basically a glycosaminoglycan. It is released from the secretory granules of mast cells, and it's strongly acidic in nature. Sulfate and carboxylic acid are present in its structure. It is extracted from the porcine intestinal mucosa or the bovine lung. Students, at this stage, you must realize that whenever there is toxicity of heparin, if you can recall from the knowledge of your general pharmacology, heparin is antagonized by protamine sulfate. And this was an example of which type of antagonism? Yes, chemical antagonism. So, you can be asked in MCQ कि heparin and protamine sulfate depict which type of antagonism, physiological, physical, chemical or pharmacological. So it's an example of chemical antagonism, and it's a highly cationic peptide, protamine sulfate, and it binds to heparin as well as to the low molecular weight heparin. How it antagonizes the effect? It forms a stable ion pair, and this protamine sulfate itself does not have any anticoagulant property. So low molecular weight heparin, these are basically heterogeneous compounds. They are 1/3 the size of unfractionated heparin. That is why they are called low molecular weight, of course. And they're produced by the chemical or enzymatic depolymerization of unfractionated heparin, which is also called standard heparin. Because these are free of some of the drawbacks associated with the heparin, they are replacing the use of heparin in many clinical situations. So this is the question which is asked, to why we prefer low molecular weight heparin. So of course, first of all, we will discuss about the ultra fractionated or the standard heparin and their adverse effect, and then you will come to know about the advantages of low molecular weight heparin themselves. So in this slide, you can well appreciate the molecular weight of low molecular weight heparin is 10,000, whereas the standard one has a molecular weight of about 30,000. So this is the first difference between the heparin and low molecular weight heparin. Regarding the mechanism of action of heparin, it basically binds to a beta-2 globulin protein which is called antithrombin 3 and causes rapid inactivation of clotting factors. So you have to remember, students, that it is antagonizing or inhibiting the two clotting factors, factor 2 and factor 10. How? By binding to antithrombin 3. And what is the function of antithrombin 3? Antithrombin 3 is normally causing the inactivation of these two clotting factors. Adding heparin to it only enhances the reaction. So anything which enhances the reaction is called a catalyst. So heparin acts as a catalyst and accelerates the process of inactivation of two factors, factor 10 and factor 2. It's a very important mechanism of action. So we can say that heparin acts as a catalytic template for the interaction of antithrombin 3 and activated coagulation factors. Okay? So the difference of this heparin from low molecular weight heparin is that low molecular weight is inactivating only factor 10A, and it only affects the platelets surfaces but do not bind to thrombin. Okay? That is why low molecular weight heparin are less likely to activate resting platelets. ठीक, ये आपने याद रखना है कि it is affecting this is less likely to activate the resting platelets. ठीक है? And second difference is कि low molecular weight are inactivating only factor 10A, whereas the ultra fractionated or the standard or the high molecular weight heparin was affecting both factor 10 and factor 2. So let's have a diagrammatic look over the mechanism of action of these two. So this is the diagram, and you can clearly appreciate that antithrombin 3, which is basically looks like a Pac-Man for your picture presentation, and when it interacts with the clotting factor, normally this reaction is very slow, but when you add this heparin, this chain is of heparin, this process is accelerated to 1000 folds, and there is inactivation of clotting factors. Which clotting factors? Factor 10 and factor 2. So what happens then when the clotting factors are inactivated, then heparin is then dissociated from this complex and it can be reutilized. बच्चों, इसका जो mechanism of action है, it's very important and often comes in your exam, and it's better to write it in a flow chart or a diagram, with the help of a diagram. Remember one thing, always attempt the answer in points, bullets, or a flow charts. It's a score gaining process. ठीक है, when the examiner is sitting in the examination hall and checking your paper, so he would prefer to read the points or the bullets or the pictorial presentation of the question. ठीक है, लेकिन उसको पैराग्राफ पढ़ने में और जो मैश्ड अप बिल्कुल आपने किया होगा उसमें उसका इतना इंटरेस्ट नहीं होगा, चाहे आपने सब कुछ ठीक लिखा होगा. सो इट्स बेटर टू बेटर प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ योर आंसर. ठीक है. So this is again showing unfractionated heparin combines with antithrombin 3, inactivates factor 10 and factor 2, and then unfractionated heparin accelerates the interaction of this factor 10 and factor 2. Similarly, low molecular weight heparin, which is having a less molecular weight than the standard one, when it combines with antithrombin 3, it inactivates only factor 10A. So another difference of heparin from low molecular weight heparin is that low molecular weight heparin is inactivating only factor 10A. First, the difference was about the molecular weight. The second difference is about the mechanism of action. ठीक है, and let's see what we have for our next slide. Similarly, if we compare heparin with low molecular weight heparin, the low molecular weight have a half-life of 4 hours. Its anticoagulant response is predictable, and look at its bioavailability. It's 90% as compared to the standard one, which is only 20%. So of course this one is much better. Then regarding the adverse effect, there is more frequent bleeding with the heparin, and you need to go to the hospital for the heparin. ठीक है, whereas in low molecular weight heparin you can even get it done in the outpatient department or hospital. ठीक है, so these are 4 more differences of heparin from low molecular weight heparin. That is why considered better than the standard heparin. Okay, regarding the pharmacokinetics of heparin, they are given parenterally. Parenteral means a route other than enteral. ठीक है, it can be intramuscular, intravenous, intraarterial, subcutaneous, but in this case we give it subcutaneous or intravenous, whereas the low molecular weight heparins can be given subcutaneous, and you know subcutaneous is very easy. ठीक है, even people with diabetes type 1 they inject insulin themselves in the subcutaneous route of. ठीक है, so similarly low molecular weight heparin are much more easier to administer, and these do not cross the membranes. So of course if they do not cross the membranes, if a mother has a history of DVT or she is complaining of deep venous thrombosis and you need to give an anticoagulant, ठीक है, and it is pregnancy, what you are going to give? You are going to give heparin because it's not going to cross the placenta barrier. ठीक है, it is safe in pregnancy. So another question which is asked in MCQ is which anticoagulant is preferred in pregnancy? So your answer would be heparin because it's a larger molecular weight size and it does not cross the membranes, so it is safe in pregnancy. It does not have teratogenic effect, whereas heparin, which we will study, it is crossing the membranes and it affects the newborn baby. And you do not give the heparin by intramuscular route because it may lead to hematoma formation. ठीक है. So if you continue the pharmacokinetics, it is given in a bolus, intravenous देते हैं for immediate anticoagulation if we need a rapid action. Then that is followed by continuous infusion or low dose of heparin for 7 to 10 days. And mind one thing, students, whenever you are giving heparin, it's affecting the blood system. Of course, you have to monitor several things. So in case of heparin, you have to monitor the APTT, right? So it is APTT is activated partial thromboplastin time. This often comes in your MCQ that for the monitoring of heparin, which system you are going to check. So for heparin you have to see the APTT, activated partial thromboplastin time. ठीक है, and whereas in case of low molecular weight heparin, since its response is predictable, ठीक है, it does not cause many adverse effects, So even you do not need to monitor its APTT. So if you move on to adverse effects of heparin or the toxicity of heparin, since these are anticoagulants, they are stopping the coagulation. So of course they can lead to many effects. ठीक है? Like number one, bleeding complications, hypersensitivity reactions, thrombosis and thrombocytopenia. We'll be discussing them one by one. Number one, bleeding complications. Of course, its high dose or its continuous dose, chronic use can lead to hemorrhage. And for the monitoring, we need to see the bleeding time of the patients. If there is a toxicity of heparin or excessive bleeding हो रही है, तो we can antagonize its effect by proton sulfate. As I told you earlier, it's a type of chemical antagonism and forms one-to-one inactive complex by ionic bonding. ठीक है? So this is important. This is asked in from your journal pharma as well. And it can often be asked in your from the blood pharmacology. So heparin का antidote क्या है? Protamine. When you will discuss about warfarin, then its antidote is vitamin K. ठीक है? So the next adverse effect of heparin is hypersensitivity reaction, and since it is obtained from the animal sources, it leads to hypersensitivity reaction like chills, fever, urticaria or anaphylactic shock. So students, here anaphylactic shock, this is another important question which can be asked in your MCQ or any short question. What is the treatment of anaphylactic shock? Anaphylactic shock is basically type 1 type of hypersensitivity. Hypersensitivity होती है तो what mediator is released? Histamine is released. ठीक है? So how do you antagonize the effect of histamine? It's an emergency condition. ठीक है? There is release of histamine, there is vasodilation, there is extreme fall in blood pressure, there is bronchoconstriction, there is angioedema, and even patient can lead to fatal complications and death of the patient can occur. ठीक है? So we need to control or treat the anaphylactic at once. So number one is like you give एपिनेफ्रीन. ठीक है? एपिनेफ्रीन यू गिव बाय इंट्रामस्कुलर रूट देते हैं. ठीक है? सबकुटेनियस दे सकते हैं एंड यू कैन गिव इट इंट्राकार्डियक, बट यू डू नॉट गिव इट इंट्रावीनस बिकॉज इट विल कॉज arrhythmia. So this is another precaution which you should keep in mind while giving epinephrine for anaphylactic shock. Similarly, you can give corticosteroids. ठीक है? Similarly, another thing which you can give is, since there is release of histamine, so you give antihistamines. So these are the steps or the protocols to manage a patient with anaphylactic shock. और किसी भी से you can get the anaphylactic shock. For example, there is a bee sting, या you can get some people get food allergies like chicken से किसी को है, किसी को peanut से है, so you need to manage it. ठीक है? तो heparin की वजह से अगर patient goes into anaphylactic shock, then you have to give epinephrine for that. And हेपरिन क्यों एनाफाइलेक्टिक शॉक हो रहा है, क्यों एलर्जी हो रही है? बिकॉज ऑफ द एनिमल सोर्स. Next complication or adverse effect of heparin is, since if you are giving heparin for a longer period of time, it can lead to reduction in antithrombin 3. So when there is decrease in antithrombin 3, there is decrease in activation of coagulation factors, which leads to opposite effect. It can lead to increased risk of thrombosis. So आपने क्या करना है इस रिस्क को मिनिमाइज करने के लिए? यू शुड गिव लो डोज हेपरिन. ठीक है? ये नहीं कि आप हेपरिन हाई डोज में देते ही जाओ, एंड सिंस इट बाइंड्स टू एंटीथ्रोम्बिन 3 एंड कॉजेज इनएक्टिवेशन ऑफ क्लॉटिंग फैक्टर्स, तो ये ना हो कि सारी की सारी एंटीथ्रोम्बिन 3 हाई डोज की वजह से इट गेट्स डिप्लीटेड, और जब एंटीथ्रोम्बिन डिप्लीट हो जाएगी देयर इज रिस्क ऑफ थ्रोम्बोसिस. ठीक है? तो एक तरफ ये हेमरेज कॉज कर सकती है, दूसरी तरफ क्रॉनिक यूज से इट कैन लीड टू थ्रोम्बोसिस. सो यू शुड बी वेरी केयरफुल एंड मॉनिटरिंग ऑफ हेपरिन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. कैसे मॉनिटर करेंगे? वी विल मॉनिटर इट विद APTT. So the next adverse effect of heparin is thrombocytopenia, which means decrease in the platelet counts. It is also called heparin induced thrombocytopenia. It is of two types, hit 1 and hit 2. ठीक है, it is more seen with ultra fractionated or the standard heparin, not with the low molecular weight heparin. So if we compare and contrast hit 1 with hit 2, hit 1 is common, mild decrease in platelet number, non-immunological mediated, occurs within first 5 days of treatment and it's not serious. Whereas hit 2 क्या है? It is IgG mediated, seen on the 5th and 14th day of treatment with heparin. It's mild to life-threatening and platelet count can decrease to 50% or even more, and thromboembolic complications can occur, but it's very rare. ठीक है? So this adverse effect of heparin is called heparin induced thrombocytopenia. This is another short question which can be asked, or in the MCQ can be asked. It decreases the level of or the amount of the platelets. So in a summary, we can say that adverse effect of heparin, it can lead to bleeding, hypersensitivity reactions and thrombocytopenia. If there is bleeding, excessive bleeding, you can antagonize the effect by protamine sulfate, which is a type of chemical antagonism. Hypersensitivity is more seen because it is obtained from animal sources, and you can antagonize the effect treating the anaphylaxis by giving epinephrine. And thrombocytopenia, which is heparin induced thrombocytopenia, which is also called hit 1 and hit 2. Okay, if there is hit, then you can replace the heparin with a low molecular weight heparin, or you can give direct thrombin inhibitor, which we will be discussing in the next lecture. So clinical uses of heparin. So let's have a quick view over the clinical uses. Then we will compile the uses of these anticoagulants when we will do warfarin as well. So it is used in acute deep venous thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, recurrent thromboembolism and post-operative venous thrombosis. ठीक है, after undergoing surgery and acute phase of MI. This is also used in extracorporeal devices, for example dialysis में, to prevent thrombosis. ठीक है, ताकि blood जो है वो clot ना कर जाए. Clot कर जाएगा तो obviously it can go into the lungs, thromboembolism हो सकता है, या उसको treat करने के लिए ताकि blood की clotting ना हो, blood flow fluidity state में रहे. So we give these agents. Heparin and low molecular weight heparins are specially for treating pregnant women with prostatic heart valves or venous thromboembolism. They do not cross the placenta due to their large size and negative charge. So ये मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया, you can be asked in an MCQ or a short question कि a 25-year-old female is in this phase of pregnancy and she has developed deep venous thrombosis, and what would be the choice. ठीक है, तो अगर वो pregnant है तो you are going to give her heparin. ठीक है, because heparin does not cross the placental barriers, so it is safe in pregnancy. लेकिन अगर कोई ऐसा केस है कि patient is a known case of DVT, ठीक है, and she was taking warfarin and now she has conceived, and what would you start now? तो आपसे ऑप्शन दी जाएगी कि यू विल कंटिन्यू वारफरिन, यू विल स्टॉप वारफरिन, यू विल इंक्रीज द डोज ऑफ वारफरिन, और यू विल शिफ्ट वारफरिन टू हेपरिन. सो ऑप्शन आंसर आना चाहिए. सो दिस इज हाउ यू रिलेट क्लिनिकली योर थ्योरेटिकल नॉलेज. ठीक है बेटा, तो सो लेट्स मूव ऑन. Okay, that was all for today. Thank you very much, students, for being with me, for listening to me. So for your assignment, you have to submit this question: can name low molecular weight heparins and compare and contrast heparin and low molecular weight heparin in tabulated form. Okay, and in the next lecture, we'll be discussing about warfarin, its mechanism of action, its toxicity, and its drug interaction as well. And at the end, we will compare heparin with warfarin. So submit your assignments on your respective groups and see you on the next lecture. Thank you very much.